Let's just go hot on the mic here. Trying to fix. Come on, Discord. There it is. Hey, there we are. All right. I gotta turn that music down as well. 1 second. Don't want to blast anyone's eardrums out. But welcome. We are live. Thank everyone for who's here. Come on, oh, Discord. I hear my voice. That's not good. There it is. Hey, there we are.
Well, it wouldn't be.
There it is. Okay. Yeah, nothing ever goes 100% right.
But yes, that's true. When it comes to live anything, I've learned that. When you don't have 10 people working for you.
Yeah, that's true. Oh god, the dream. But yeah, welcome. I'm the Bad Luck Gamer, and today we got a wonderful stream here. We got at least a good amount of time here with our lovely guests. Would you like to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yeah, Ronald Cruz, C-R-U-Z, the rules lawyer. I have a YouTube channel focused on Pathfinder 2E, but also I have GM'd D&D 5th edition and Pathfinder 1st edition, and I like talking about differences between rule sets, and because Pathfinder 2E is my preferred system, I like to blab about that. And I apologize, I've told these folks already, I have to do a work call in 54 minutes. So no I'll be leaving. Oh, and we have a challenge for the audience of 50 likes on this stream, and I will do an a cappella unplugged version of the Rules Lawyer rap. And, you know, it's an ambitious goal, and I partly is because I hope I don't have to do it.
That's fair. I'm excited for that, that's for sure. I'm making some calls, I'm getting some people online. But yeah, we've been very excited actually to have you on. I think I sent you a message on Twitter like a month ago or something like that. And I know we wanted to talk to you before. We try to keep our guest appearances pretty spaced out because we don't want to be one of those like guest podcasts that are just always featuring guests, because we want to bring value to our other things. But also, one of the goals that we have on the channel as well is that we want to better interconnect the community when it comes to tabletop stuff. I see a lot of really great tabletop creators just doing their own thing, and there's not that much interconnection between them. There's a few channels. I know Knights of Last Call do some crossover stuff, and I know Roll for Combat as well does some stuff, and it's just something that like I feel the community just needs a lot more interconnection. So we like to have as many people on. We had Paul from the Rise of the Rule Lords guy, who's one of the main mods over on the Pathfinder 2E Reddit, and that was a really great conversation. And then we had some crossover with the minis side of things. We had the Gallant Goblin crew come on and talk about minis and all that kind of stuff like that. We had an unboxing of a mini set here on stream, so we try to do like a little bit of everything, and I really like
we're the little guys.
Yeah,
we're the little guys. We have to collect together like droplets.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I honestly, no matter how big the channel manages to get, I still want to give some view and like bring up everyone in the space as well. People who I see are really putting in a lot of effort. Have you seen Frizz's content on the Pathfinder 2E stuff? Yeah, Frizz is another person I'd love to have on at some point to talk about the animation style and the way he goes about it. He also was doing some of the archetype videos before we started doing the archetype videos here, because it's impossible to find any archetype stuff on Pathfinder 2E, which is a shame because through the series I found a lot of archetypes I just overlooked completely that are actually really, really good.
Yeah, I think you and Frizz together cover the archetypes. Classes are the big sexy things, but archetypes, the fact that you can easily overlook them. It makes content about them useful, and because people tend to ignore them. And I don't know, it seems like a fun thing. Maybe I can consider doing that because of how you can plug them into every class in Pathfinder.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, I'm sure we're gonna derail at some point just talking about Pathfinder.
Oh yeah.
It's you said in your 1D&D video that Pathfinder 2e is your preferred system currently. Would you say it's your favorite?
It is, yes. And I need to say now, the link I shared with folks, I'm going to refresh, is not showing. It's still just showing the thumbnail.
Yeah, no, I think it's just because of the multi-stream that the link didn't work. You should be able to just copy and paste the link for the current live stream.
Okay,
I'll
as
send
well,
that
if
to
you need it, I put it in the Discord chat for this voice call.
Oh, okay.
So if you just need it right there.
Let me do that, and if you won't mind, I'm going to paste it in the wait, where is it? Okay, I'm going to paste it in the YouTube. The YouTube
on your Discord, right?
page. No, not on my Discord, but on the YouTube where there's a chat room. It says there are 8 people waiting there at the YouTube.
Oh, okay, that's fair.
Yeah.
That's
yeah, I've never used the shareable link because we never set it up to do so. So I wasn't sure how it was gonna work, and I did try to fiddle around with it, but it just seems the multi-streaming guffed everything up.
Yeah,
it seems like a useful thing too, because getting people in before we start.
I'm not seeing that link, Alex, so I'm not able to put it. I see you did it.
Yeah, the tabletop. I did it right there.
Another YouTube link.
Yeah, it's
that's me.
But as well, for the table talk, there's the open chat if you mouse over the actual voice thing.
All right.
Which I can throw any links if you need any.
Okay, good. Awesome. Yeah, so you were starting. You were asking me if Pathfinder is my favorite system, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, hold on.
There they are. Yeah, we saw just a bunch of people hop in just a
moment
ago.
Cool. All right, yeah. So is it my favorite system? Yes, and I'll just say my journey, I guess, to get to this point. And I was I'll repeat the challenge here. If we can get to 50 likes, I will do an a cappella rendition of the Rules Lawyer rap, which I hope I won't have to do. Okay, so as recounted in my rap, I was I actually started playing RPGs relatively late in life, and was with Pathfinder First Edition, and I kind of didn't. I saw the big war between that and D&D 4th edition. I chose one side in the war, and that was Pathfinder First. And and I also liked D&D 5th edition because it was just easier to run compared to First edition. And Pathfinder 2nd edition, just generally, I just felt it had the advantages of being easier to run, and still retaining the character customization and of Pathfinder First. And additionally added something from fourth edition, which was, the importance of what you do in the middle of combat, making that more of a thing. Because even in Pathfinder First Edition, with all of the customization and fun of character building, you arguably could win at character creation and have a character that's just really much stronger than the others at the same table. So yeah, it's my favorite. And then I realized that I didn't really have much opinion about it until there started to be some videos kind of attacking Pathfinder 2.
Yeah.
And then I was like, okay. And then I had a period where I was looking for some LGBT plus groups in my local community to do some online gaming. And I'm like, okay, I'll just do a video that's going to just show it's not that hard. And that was my very first video, which is titled Pathfinder 2e is Easy, and showed a sample combat. And I by the time of my second video, was planning to do that response to Taking 20's Illusion of Choice, because I wanted to do something like that, and that became my first, that was my big thing. About 3 months later. That took a lot of work, a lot of preparation. And that was one of the videos you wanted to talk about. I think you wanted to talk about when you wanted to bring up that video, and also my one D&D videos recently.
Yeah, of course. So I mean, the illusion of choice, as much as it was such a controversial topic, it was a catalyst for a lot of channels on the YouTube space. Nonats actually got a lot of his initial major viewing from a response to that. Some other YouTubers did so as well. And I mean, when essentially a Titan walks into the Pathfinder 2E space with 200k subs and says something that no one likes, like the subs just came raining down on the people who were available at the time. And one of the things that I really did enjoy about your content and everything like that was just how much you wanted to stand up and just say the things that, like everyone was thinking or people like wanted to talk about, and you're just very unabashedly just coming up and bringing that up. I liked your Alchemist video, like making Alchemist good, because a lot of people really don't like the Alchemist class, even though I think it's a really good class.
I'm guilty of that, I'll admit. I just don't understand it. That's all that is.
It's so versatile. It's so good. And not only that, but your illusion of choice video, I think, was, you did do it a little bit after the major drop of it, and I think that was intentional, or I think I remember hearing something along those lines. And then your 1D&D stuff has been very, very interesting, because honestly, I do have a lot of the same feelings when it comes to how Wizards of the Coast has been dealing with 1D&D, its presentation as some kind of new type of tabletop modular rule set that isn't an expansion or isn't a new edition, but if you wanted to play it, you would still have to buy new books and do everything anyway. So in practice, it's still just an addition. I was watching the video here recently, and I agreed with a lot of the points as well. And so what really... And welcome to everyone in the chat. If you want to see Ronald here sing on stream, leave a like, because we have exclusive content. The first ever live performance
of the Rules Lawyer rap.
Of the Rules Lawyer rap. We're looking to get 50 likes. We are already 20% of the way there, so...
Yeah, this is like Kickstarter. This is where they tell their friends, you gotta get on, you gotta do this.
Exactly. But so what really what motivates you to step up and say things in the space that is gonna get a lot of pushback?
Well, I think I'd be remiss not to mention my overall history. I think that I became a lawyer as part of a civil rights group. BAMN, which is spelled BAMN, which is, you can tell from the name that which I'm going to spell out. I'm going to say in full that I'm used to controversy.
Mm-hmm, right.
And it's the Coalition to Defend Affirmative Action, Integration, and Immigrant Rights, and Fight for Equality by Any Means Necessary, BAMN. And I joined that as a college freshman in 1995 at UC Berkeley, and just became involved in things that and taking issues on issues of social justice, racial justice, that there is going to be a lot of pushback on that. But I just knew in the end that for the benefits of the majority of people, including white Caucasian people, that these arguments needed to be said, and that the direction of our society can go in a positive or a negative direction depending on where we stand on race. And so I think that my history with the group also meant we've been taking on global heating, women's equality, right to abortion, LGBT plus equality, all this stuff. And so I kind of have experience, and I would go around the circulate petitions, get hundreds of signatures at UC Berkeley, talk in front of classrooms of 300 people, like say, come to our protest, and this is why. And so people raising their hands saying, disagreeing and dealing with that. So, but that also means also being prepared to say something that, not everyone's the majority of people even may disagree with you, but it's important to be said. So, so I'm kind of have a lot of that's kind of like my special skill set, you could say. And then being a lawyer also helps me kind of like helps my BS meter.
That's fair. That's fair.
I'd be like, oh no, that's a fallacy. You're doing this. I think what people learn in rhetoric, who are rhetoric majors in college, learn. Oh, that's not an argument. That's demagogy. That's moving the goalposts. I objection. but then as you can see too, I think it's clear from my channel, I really like gaming, and let me think. I've also had the experience of teaching Pathfinder First Edition, which is not an easy edition to teach to middle schoolers. So that's something else I have in my background.
It's also just a tough thing to learn in general. I mean, one person we had Mark Seifter on, and I have zero experience with Pathfinder First Edition. I've played Wrath of the Righteous. That's all I've done.
The computer game, right?
Yeah, exactly. And then he explained how the action system worked in Pathfinder First Edition, and I have no clue how anyone plays this game. I'll be completely honest. He said so much.
He said that in one of my interviews, and I clipped it for YouTube. 1 minute of him going over, the not in action.
Yeah, that's what he did.
I'm sure he really enjoyed talking about it too. You could tell.
Yeah.
Yes, it's not easy, and so I was like, when a video came out saying, there's so much math, +1, +2, I'm like, okay, that was in the D&D 5th edition in the first place. And the real issue is, I also learned, like, sometimes you don't accept somebody's where they put the argument. It's actually, you want to move the argument because, like, for him, it was that's just not his type of game. For what's his name? Puffin Forest. He just is a different kind of player. He's looking for something else. So that's it. That's the bottom line. And it wasn't what he was actually talking about, because Pathfinder 2e arguably is actually streamlines some things if you want to go for the crunchy 1e, Pathfinder 1e, 3rd edition D&D kind of gameplay. And so, yeah, I guess that was my long-winded answer to ask how did I feel like I could do this. But
I mean, it was a great answer. I think you learned a lot from that.
And I guess something that distinguished me too is I was doing combat demonstrations, which, it's hard to argue with. Here's how it actually looks. And also I guess from my background too, I like to win.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Yeah. It's good to be motivated.
I mean, and I'm not saying, I'm, people who know me know I don't really have a big head or a big ego, but I have a confidence in what I'm saying. And I think, and I'm completely prepared to say when I'm wrong. And I think that's how you develop a confidence in what you're saying, when you look at other points of view and actually, as a result, decide what you think. And I think with, I just like, this is the best way to make this point. Because, okay, there's just a number of things to say in response to the illusion of choice video. One, you can just tune down your encounters if you're the GM. If your players feel like they have to do one thing every turn or they'll die, okay? And the idea that they were supposedly playing optimally but had a TPK, that's inherently not consistent with each other.
Right.
But also, you're just coming in with assumptions from most previous editions that had feats that it's about your character build, and that your feats funnel you into a repetitive style of gameplay. And what I tried to do with that video was try to have the most one-trick pony-ish characters possible, but then have fights that show that even they need to look at the immediate tactical situation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I want to touch on some stuff. So, I mean, it sounds like you're used to dealing with very stressful situations on very important topics. So, I guess in the TTRPG space, it must be a walk in the park for you to kind of get through some of these arguments.
Honestly, it's a learning process because it's new, not because it's any inherently easier. I mean, I would say when I started the channel, I might get more upset by a random comment, online from an anonymous person, but then be able to like debate somebody who's homophobic and racist to my face.
Yeah, right.
Before that was because I had done that before.
Yeah,
but yeah, I mean the consequences are less big, definitely, than those other
that's
things.
fair, and it doesn't mean that they
that doesn't mean the passion is any less intense among the people involved.
Yeah, but no, I mean it's such a great mindset, especially with the evolution of tabletop as it currently has been for the last a decade now almost. I think since like Critical Role started really becoming a big thing and people really started investing in the space, and then especially like the LGBTQ community really started to invest in the space and really find a home here. It's been really great to see, and it definitely has had its growing pains for sure. But I mean, you're the kind of people that the space really needs. And actually, before I forget, welcome everyone who's been saying hi in the chat. If you want to see Ronald sing on stream, please leave a like. We're trying to get to 50 before he leaves in like 30 minutes. So we're making progress. We're getting there. But
cool.
You're the kind of people that we really need here in the space. I feel like people who are really willing to kind of stand up and speak their mind and be like, it's okay to disagree, but it's not okay to like fling mud at each other for no good reason. And that like, just because some big names, especially with the big names, unfortunately, one of the impacts of being a big YouTuber, I feel like a lot of people don't understand, is that their opinions not only sway people, but their videos stick to the topics if it doesn't have a lot of competition. The reason why a lot of people know about the Illusion of Choice video even over a year after it's come out is because it's still one of the most viewed videos in the Pathfinder 2e section, which is incredibly unfortunate. The Puffin Forest video, also similarly incredibly unfortunate, even though I know he didn't have any malintent and he was just saying it wasn't for me, but it just has that weight that people really can't get away from once you hit certain subscriber limits or subscriber sizes. And having people who are willing to who are willing to rock the boat a little bit and to stand up against those videos and try to, call them out for some really bad arguments, honestly, in both videos. I agree as well. Is very important, especially because, like, I'll admit, I'm a newer YouTuber in this space. We just hit, like, 1,000 subs in the end of June. And
cool. Congratulations.
Yeah, and I mean, like, I'm incredibly ambitious. I'm really pushing the content and, trying new things, doing a lot of new stuff. But there's definitely some topics that I myself don't feel like I have the emotional or mental capacity to start. I don't have I don't have the firework gear or the fire gear to put out some pretty big fires that I might start on the channel. So I try to keep things really lighthearted, and I move in a positive direction. I'm bringing attention to things people who are overlooking in the space. The reason why I made my first video the first video in Pathfinder, if you actually look at my channel, I have 500 videos, and about 400 and some odd of them were gaming back in the day. But of the more recent videos, the first one that really came out was the Bard video, because I wanted people to see that some of these classes that people were kind of bashing on for no real good reason had a lot to offer. Yeah.
People bashing on the...
Yeah. It's because people want to do damage, and they're just like,
Yeah.
why am I wasting actions doing doing focus cantrips? You know.
Yeah, why would I cast
a
utility
lot of
when
people
I
in the
can
community say it's one of the stronger classes.
No, yeah, for sure. And even then, it's like Alchemist as well. Alchemist, I think, is such a good class that brings a lot wherever they go, especially because even the most bombery of bomber alchemists can still just drop really good healing on a whim, as long as they have the formula in their book. So it's a lot of stuff that people don't see because they don't have the system knowledge or experience to really get the most out of it. And then on top of that as well is the argument of what is a good tabletop like session, or what people think are good characters and everything like that, because I'm much more of a narratively driven player, but I do thoroughly enjoy mechanics. So I make my characters as narratively and as mechanically satisfying for myself as possible, which does mean maybe a lack in optimization towards damage, for instance, but that usually comes with optimization or more focus in like exploration activities or like downtime activities, or even just I talk tabletop theory all the time. Making characters who have personalities that mesh well with other characters is very important for the space, because in the end it's a social game, and getting along with your fellow table mates is incredibly important, and there's no mechanic for that. So having a good theory on what makes a good character personality or playstyle choice, I think, is also something that really doesn't exist in the space, because people really just point to the numbers. And I like a lot of your video content because I think it comes from a lot of the same space, which is people overlooking the gems that are in game systems, or people who, like with the 1D&D stuff, who are just hand waving it, being like, oh, it's D&D, I'm sure they got it, when you're just sitting there like, this isn't a playtest. I don't know what they're trying to do with this. Guys, we need to pay attention to this. Please look at it. Like, I got some examples of some good stuff here, but what they're doing is just not working. And I don't know. Like I said, it's one of the reasons we really did want you. And we've been talking, Alex and I, myself, have been talking even before you responded on wanting to have you on the channel, because we think you have a lot of great ideas. So I guess, go ahead.
Oh, I apologize that I have to leave in 30 minutes, because I already know we have more to talk about after that,
Yeah,
and I can come on again, because you have this, every week?
Every week, every Thursday, typically.
Yeah, we just need and if people in chat too, or you guys, of course, have ideas on things to focus on. But yeah, I mean, you should definitely, the struggle's real to stay motivated, to make content, and you got to do what you think serves your audience and what you are prepared to focus on. I kind of I guess it goes back to, I like to win. I mean, I just I like to take on tell people things that they might not have considered, and might actually if a lot of players who play D&D, I don't think they're hidebound and like set in, like they have, I think they're just they just haven't really, I've said this in some videos, they just don't try Pathfinder 2E, which is the obvious other thing to try because it's in the same design space. Because not because they're against it in any sense. It's just that they don't see the reason to. Like what they already know a system, they're already familiar with it. And I forget what the second thing I usually say is, but yeah, I mean, I think it's an exciting time right now with 1D&D coming out. That they're basically, the problem for Wizards of the Coast is that by working on what everyone knows as a new edition, it puts everything up in the air. Nothing that is currently exists now in the game has to continue to be that way. And so, from the standpoint of where, at least directly in relation to Pathfinder 2E, one of your main selling points for people to continue playing D&D and buy D&D products is that people are is that it's what's familiar, and it's where you can find other people playing it. It's not going to be familiar anymore, and people are about to learn a new system. So you can kind of see why in their PR they've been avoiding the idea that this is a new edition. They want to tell people, well, this is the D&D you know and love, but they can't quite do that, and this is why they're doing a new edition in the first place, because they know there is some discontentment, maybe not among a numerical majority of people in the D&D community, but those folks who tend to be those who are really passionate and might determine what system their table plays or what their friends play. It's hard to balance encounters in this system. Combat feels a little boring. The whole ubiquity of ways to fix D&D, that being a top video type in YouTube, indicates some broader, deeper problems. So this playtest is a huge opportunity for the designers to do some things that it doesn't have to be like Pathfinder 2E, but it can target those who are looking for a simpler first RPG, but it doesn't have to be as it's fine maybe the first few sessions, but there's just problems that start cropping up after a while. I might be losing my point, but
no worries.
The playtest time is the time to start alpha testing various things. Mm-hmm. And so, in the latest UA documents, I think they're getting there was some walking back on some things in their first article, suggesting they're hearing some little bit of feedback, but it's still completely inadequate. Like, they're going forward in the second article with having ASI's ability score increases competing with your feats. And I did a poll over at the 1D&D Reddit asking that community if they think they should be competing with each other. And 1,100 people voted no, they should be separate, and 600 people voted for how the UA was doing it. However, if you're reading the UAs, they are not. This is already set in stone. It's been decided already. And in fact, this whole format of giving us piecemeal releases as if they've already figured out the bigger questions is just, it sends mixed messages. It's causing a lot of drama. People are thinking that some longstanding issues of the game are not being addressed, and people are looking at various things in isolation, isolated from design goals, which WotC has not made clear. And it's just they're not giving, like, if we would just be in a completely different place if they were saying in their latest UA, do you think ASI should compete with feats as a survey question? And what else was it? In my latest video, where I realized that the bonus action system that we have in D&D, I while researching it, I was looking at the playtests for. Watch my video today, by the way.
Yeah, of course.
But when you look at the playtest process, the development of D&D Next, what eventually became 5th edition, they never playtested the bonus action system. In their last playtest, they had some spells use your swift action, and there was never this idea that rogue's extra cunning action would use a bonus action that competes with other things that are called bonus actions. That was never there. Mm-hmm. And it was an improvement. What they eventually got was an improvement over what was in the playtest, granted, but there were problems that more playtesting and actual dialogue would have ironed out. And then for us 10 years later to be accepting it as true and unchangeable is just not, it's not good. And it's possible, I think, you don't have to adopt the 3-action system, but you absolutely can even use 5e materials, classes, and stuff within this revised system that I propose in the video. So, there's just this whole,
Well, when we're in the prime position to help influence the next change in the biggest tabletop system currently in the space. That's very important, and being able to have proper discourse and to make sure that the playtests are done. I mean, I'm sure you want 1D&D to succeed just as much as anyone else really wants to, and it's important to be able to stand up and to, you know, call out the things that you view being problematic, which honestly there's quite a lot, and a lot of people in the space are putting their fingers in their ears and just going, no, it's gonna be okay. It's you don't have to even use it if you don't want to, because you can just keep playing normal 5e. But you know, like, there's a lot of discourse that's missing the point. Whatever Wizards of the Coast is investing into 1D&D means that 5e material may not necessarily get that much attention. They can only allocate so many resources. So you want to make sure that the thing that they're allocating hopefully the most resources to is stuff that's going to positively enhance the game experience, which is looking like the best chance right now is 1D&D, as I think there are some really fundamental flaws in D&D 5th edition's style that makes it more difficult the more you get into the game, which is really rough. Because I know at some point here in the near future, we also plan on bringing on a D&D 5e GM who's done a lot of homebrew and who has done a lot of things to make the game really work for his players, and get a very experienced D&D 5e GM to come in and talk about his experience, because I think it's important to show how much work these absolute mad lads of GMs put in to make D&D 5e feel fun for their players, especially the players who are got a real good grasp on the game and are looking to get some more out of it.
Yeah, the DM in particular is one that I'm in a game with every Friday, and is running the form of 5e that I enjoy. Because I mean, I hopped to Pathfinder like a year ago because Cam invited me to like some like public play thing, and I was like, yeah, sure, I'm in town, I'll do that. And going through all of like the character stuff, I'm like, oh my god, all of my issues with 5e are solved in character creation.
I have to use the bathroom. I'm sorry. I'll be right back.
No worries. But, you know, more time talk to the audience, I suppose.
Yeah.
By the way, if you haven't done so already, I know Alex put it in the chat, but we are almost halfway there to our goal. We have, at the moment, less than 20 minutes to get Ronald to sing on stream. So invite your friends, call everyone, get some likes on the video. We're looking for 50 likes to get that done. And, make some bargains, pay some money. I don't know. We gotta get those likes somehow.
I don't know. Call your mom, call your dad, send it around.
Call your dog, have them get onto their YouTube. Let's do this. But, you know, one thing that I really think Ronald does really well is be willing to stand up and to voice his opinions, to call for change, and to bring attention to things that people are not inherently understanding in the situation. And I know a lot of the D&D 5e space is very casual and is not very like intense, but nonetheless, that doesn't mean casual players can't get a lot out of a more complex or a more well thought out system. Like, it should never be anyone's idea that a game with less rules is somehow easier to run, because it's not, honestly. As a DM for as long as I've been, more rules makes my life easier when it comes to just running the game. Learning, no, but running, yes. It's very important that GMs have to think as little as possible about how things actually work to make the game run. So the more rules are set out for them, the less they actually have to burn, CPU trying to make the game actually work.
That's the thing that I've been in calls with this like DM that we want to invite on, where he's going through. He's like, yeah, here's some systems I made, some extra like cool level up stuff. Kind of like he has a system that's kind of like Mythic Paths in like Pathfinder. Sort of some milestone that gives you extra stuff. Or he's going through and he's like, Alex, I'm making a in-game economy, and I'm going doing this, this, this. I'm like, you poor man. I could never. I can't relate, but I'm very happy that you're happy. Because he enjoys like the process of doing this. So, and I mean that guy runs the only form of 5e that I truly will say I like enjoy the rules of. I mean, he got me to enjoy playing a utility caster. I'm a pure DPS man through and through in anything I do. But I'm like out here enjoying a bard, which is crazy for me.
I on what you were saying about, yeah, more rules does not necessarily mean it's harder to run. That's definitely true. And I've been mulling over this, and I don't know where this is headed yet, but in some of my first 1D&D videos, I advocated a modular system that started with a relatively simple core and built on top of that, like the original pitch that was made for D&D Next. But I'm not quite sure how that would look given all of the kind of abilities that it looks like they want to give characters in the latest UA articles. But yeah, I mean, one could, conceivably come up with something rules light from the PF2 end and just be like, actually that's my next video, a rules light version of PF2. But
Ooh.
There's some things in it that seem wordy and technical sounding, but actually are quite sleek for its purpose. Like the frightened condition just gives a -1 to everything, and it's temporary. Or the sickened condition, it's very simple. And but what if there were no skill feats? What if there were not necessarily defined skill actions, and you just have like a 12-page rule book for this game, but the math is sound, you could still use the stat blocks. I don't know. I don't know if that would work. But for someone who's actually going to 5e now, thinking this is the rules light system, it's actually not very, in the spectrum of RPGs, very rules light. And but people tend to think it is because it's the default system. And I don't know, I'm just kind of raising that out loud. Maybe that's something to think about. Because it seems like it could be pared down because there are people who are like, people who like the style of play that's in Critical Role, which I enjoy very much from what I've seen so far. I'm watching Campaign 1. But they don't need a lot of the stuff in the player's handbook for how they play. And there are people who, anyway, 5e isn't actually the game they're looking for as written.
Well, I mean, there's some parts of it. I think when you really break it down, I agree, but I think there's some fundamentals in 5th edition that can be really easy to get into and understand. I mean, how like there's not really a modifier system outside of just what's on the stat page already, so a lot of how you alter rolls is disadvantage, all the other kind of stuff is really easy. But I agree because, I mean, something else we do on the channel, we look at a new tabletop system almost every month. We've tried out recently Blades in the Dark, and I would argue that Blades in the Dark is much more rules light than D&D 5th edition because of, as a whole, the system doesn't need a lot to really make it run as far as like how the numbers work or how skills work or anything like that. Where D&D 5th edition, and like the point where I agree, is D&D 5th edition seems really easy to run until you start looking at like, oh, players can adjust certain modifiers in some ways. There's some abilities that work in different ways, so you need to get those abilities to make the game work. And it's frustrating, I think, for a lot of people who are in the space who see the flaws that 5th edition brings, but it's hard to persuade people to the idea that 5th edition isn't exactly the idea that a lot of media has put it up to, like presented it to everyone. Because, even here on this channel, I say D&D 5th edition is really easy to run as far as like your first time being a DM. But I feel like the more you start biting into it, the more bones you start fighting, and it becomes a progressively more and more of a chore to run D&D 5th edition than I feel like someone's first game should be, and especially for something that is counted as being the rules light version of a D20 system, which 5th edition really isn't. But, we got you for 10 minutes now. So what's something I think you feel is really important for, I don't know, like the content you're creating, or kind of a message you want to deliver to people? Maybe even it's something that you've been thinking over a lot, besides the rules light version of Pathfinder 2E, which I do love the idea, though I think my version of it would be progressive encounter design, of introducing encounters that introduce more and more mechanics to the system, versus like a pocketbook version that introduces the rules to you in, I guess, a similar way. But what do you think is like something really important in the space that you really want people to start like considering or thinking about, or just something you want to talk about? You got 10 minutes and I want to get the most out of you that we can.
Yeah, and I apologize. I'm happy to come again. I told Cameron I have this legal conference call that I have to go to. Actually, you know what? On that, yes, 10 minutes. I'm sorry. I just realized something. I kind of, on what you just most recently said, I think that I am quite optimistic that I think what happens is that if there's going to be a migration of people checking out Pathfinder 2E, it's not from the average player of 5e. It's from, one could say, generally game masters and those players who are most frustrated by the limits of 5e, which I don't think is the majority of 5e players. So those who want more support in counterbalancing, having adventuring, well, a number of things. Magic item economy, having to decide when to give a magic sword, all those things. If that's not going to be addressed openly or addressed at all in 6e, I think there's going to be a significant, I don't know, I'm going to guess it's not a majority of tables trying out Pathfinder 2e. Because, they're, and a lot of them are not involved in the 1D&D discussions. They're just waiting. they're just waiting to see what actually comes out. And they'll be, having the decision, do I learn the new system? And my guess is WotC's going to cut off some support for 5e online, and I don't know if that's true, but I mean, you don't see anything for 4e online right now.
Right.
Or learn the other new system, which is actually which is free online.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a huge advantage. And then there's the players who, particularly martial players, who I think is, I'm planning another video. Tentative title is How to Fighter Good in Pathfinder 2e.
I think that's great.
But it's going to do a number of things, but just show like you can have a lot of fun as a martial character in Pathfinder.
But trust me, it's been hard. I'm a magic man myself. I play wizards all the time. I love magic, but I'm a utility player. That's the kind of thing I enjoy. I like having answers to every solution, all the other kind of stuff. I'm a very deep thinker, deep thonk, and Pathfinder 2e, the fighter and all the martials feel so good, and they can offer so much more than just hit thing or just hit thing better. Like one of the favorite builds I've seen from Fighter literally was the Intelligence Fighter that just can do multiple recall knowledges just by smacking an enemy a few times and learn everything about them. It's just like bam, bam, I know your secrets, and it feels the player who plays the character enjoys it so much. He enjoys being able to hit as well as a fighter can, mixed with the idea that he knows their weaknesses, knows their moves, all the other kind of stuff, and it feels good. Outwit Ranger, someone just mentioned here a second ago. Outwit Ranger, I think, is so underrated. It's so good because you can use it in a lot of different situations to make the game more interesting in and outside of combat. Outwit Ranger is so good outside of combat, and it's just the thing is that 5th edition doesn't offer the same out of combat or exploration benefits to martials that Pathfinder just hands out like candy sometimes. It's crazy to me.
I was gonna say too that I want to share Swing Ripper, who's in chat. He has the Wrestler dedication, and I GM him in a campaign, and we had a vampire trying to get away, so it turned into gaseous form. He grapples the gaseous form and then suplexes it.
Oh.
Isn't that great? I love
Final
tabletop.
Fantasy 6 type shit, honestly.
Yeah, and I just like, okay, I know there's a space for, having less things defined. You get to like flavor your action. I hit it. It doesn't have to be simply I hit it and do 6 damage. You can like give some cool narrative. But man, you can get some fun flavor from some of the mechanics in Pathfinder feats. And one of my really lore-heavy players, he's 14, who prefers to run light systems like Powered by the Apocalypse, he just loved this feat, this legendary deception feat where you say you spend one action telling a creature that you were a recurring person in their lifetime.
Oh yeah.
And it like leaves them confused or stupefied or something.
Yeah.
But those things just lead to really cool stories, and I just think that
reveal machinations.
Reveal machinations. Yeah, there's just a lot. There's just a whole mine full of cool ideas in mechanics that people are depriving themselves of if they're not checking out Pathfinder.
Exactly.
I will say too, it's really fun because Cam's little talk on like he's typically a utility caster. I'm exactly the opposite. I am a pure martial player through and through. If there is a problem, I feel like I can punch my way through it. That is the vibe I bring. However, here I am in Pathfinder with martial characters being, the most fun I've had playing a martial character, excited about playing a wizard. I don't like wizards. They're a bunch of like nerds. But however, this build, I have a Curse Maelstrom evocation wizard. And I'm like, this is the coolest thing ever. Like going through all of this magic stuff I can do, delving into spell books for the first time. I'm like, it's quite a game to get me to care about something I've hated for years. And I stick to my guns. I'm a very stubborn man when I make a judgment. But hey, it's a great game.
Another really cool thing. I'm releasing this either Friday or Saturday. My Spirit of Halloween build, and it's a druid build that mixes the Leaf Order and the Flame Order to get a jack-o'-lantern kind of look. It's a Leshy, and I implemented Shadowcaster into it because the fun thing about Shadowcaster is that you can have a familiar that has the aspects of a shadow familiar that isn't actually the shadow-specific familiar. So my little Leshy familiar that I get from the Leaf Order of being a druid, it has the abilities. It has like the Vine Grasp that you get from the Leshy familiar secrets, and it can also shadow jump. It can also eat shadows, sit in a shadow and like regain health. It has all these really cool shadow powers but it doesn't need to be a shadow familiar specifically, meaning it's a really good mix. And this is something you only get in Pathfinder 2E because it offers so many good mixing opportunities, especially if you're using like free archetype and everything like that. And 5th edition misses that mark because their multi-classing system feels like you're paying a cost more than it does like you're adding to your character. And I would love to talk so much more, but we got a minute of your time left. So I want to say first, we're going to be on for another hour, so people don't need to leave. If you do manage to get done with your call, you're always free to hop back in between now and an hour from now, whatever that is. If you want to finish up with us or come back to talk, I would definitely love to have you on again. And if you ever want to run something on your channel, I'm sure we'd be happy to come over and do the same. But is there anything you want to leave? Any other plugs you want to give for your last minute here?
Yeah, I had things in my brain. Wait, I'm sorry. What you were just talking about, because it was making me think of something.
Well, the plugs, anything you like to do, having us come on. You can come on where you can come on in the next hour.
I know. One thing was that, there's a number of issues as to why you can't really have something like, okay, the multi-classing system problem is definitely there for 5e, but as to having cool abilities like Reveal Machinations, one of the problems of 5e is lack of balance. Mm-hmm. So if you only have one action per turn, and this is a multifaceted problem, but if you only have one action per turn, and you can do 4 attacks as a fighter, you're not going to spend your action doing, revealing machinations, because there's like just definite optimal things to do that are very effective, but flavor-wise, not, there's one thing to do, and people say Pathfinder folks are funless nerds who like. Who
like crunching numbers,
math, and like balance is like a bad word, but no, it's in order to make it possible to have many cool things to do, and not feel like you're being punished for doing the optimal thing and being bored doing that. And on and Alex, you were talking about some spells. I forget what it's called, but in our campaign, Swing Ripper knows, but there's this psychic spell, an occult spell, where he created telekinetic storm around himself, 10-foot radius. Every time sustained on every subsequent turn, it became 10 feet wider. And we were in this 300-foot wide room, and he had just this huge storm, and he had the Curse Maelstrom aura going on at the same time. And it affected allies as well, and the whole battlefield was his mind causing this huge hurricane in the room. But that's an idea. There's just some spells that are really cool in Pathfinder to feature. My last thing is I want to give... my video came out today on should 1D&D have a 3-action economy. I have a plan of a video next week on a rules light version of Pathfinder 2. I wanted to say... It is not a true rules light variant I'm talking about. I understand it's not rules light systems are not what I.
I understand.
Well, one would need to look elsewhere from 5e and Pathfinder 2e, but I'm kind of using it as a shorthand. People should subscribe to my channel, and then lastly, check out Bad Luck Gamer's channel. He has a lot of stuff on his right-click his thing, put in another tab, but he has a lot of content on Pathfinder 2, showing his enthusiasm for the system and talking about archetypes as well as classes that people haven't considered. We did not reach our goal of 50 thumbs up. If I had stayed on 2 hours, I think we would have. But maybe we can do that when I come back on your show again, and then I can do the player wrap live. Anyway, we don't have to win 100%. You need to have some losses, some TPKs for those victories to feel earned. So that's my last.
That's your sign off there.
Yeah, sign off.
All right, sure. So thank you
Thanks
so
for having
much
me
for coming on.
It was super fun.
Yeah. I look forward to coming on again.
All right, awesome.
Okay,
free
bye.
to go. Yeah.
All right.
All right, we're still live though. Don't go anywhere.
You got a whole hour to film.
We got a whole hour left, and we might get Ronald again. Who knows?
Yeah.
1 second, real quick. I'm gonna fix the camera.
Yeah. Also, besides, chat while you're still here and active and kicking. Very slight selfish thing here. I would love if you could recommend some cool spells. This is the first time I have ever dug into like any of the spell books. So like if there's some like really cool stuff, like this is the time to pitch it.
Oh, man, dude, I got some fun spells for you. Man, the game gets so much more fun when you know how everything works, I tell you. It's like when we were playing Riptide the other day, and I was just like, hey, rather than just hitting someone, you can also hit them and recharge your spell strike and do an area attack too, right? It's like, oh yeah, or like you're prone at the beginning of your turn. You got a spell specifically to counter that, right? And it's like,
That's fair.
it's Horizon Thundersphere is a really good one.
Ooh, that's a cool name.
This is for the Arcane Tradition.
I am playing a wizard. And yeah, we are just like, it's a guest thing. We have a private like Discord channel, which by the way, join our Discord, where we just bring people in. Other than that, when it's just us two, we're a lot more into like talking back and forth with chat because we have more like availability to do so.
Of course, yeah. We had to honor the time that we invest into our guests. And Ronald, I know once he got in, I think he was really unsure about what he was getting into when he was signing on to come chat with us today. But I think once he got in and started talking to us, I think he was really starting to turn around. I think he was really regretting having to leave. So I definitely think Blistering Invective is really good as well.
What the
But
hell is that?
I'll tell you here in a second. But I know he's gonna want to come on again. I think we will have him on because I think only an hour is not enough. And the guy's busy. He actually messaged me earlier today. He was like, "Oh, I got this thing. Can we reschedule?" And then he's like, "Nope, never mind. I don't have it. I can still do it." And then back and forth. So it wasn't really his fault at all. And unfortunately, it's just really hard for me to change last minute because when you're releasing content on YouTube, if you release a video the same day you're doing a live stream, it really messes with the algorithm and the discoverability of your video. So if I was to reschedule on a day where I didn't have a video come out, it would mess up future videos. So we had to work with what we had, essentially. But I definitely want to have Ronald on again, and we might even do so soon. I think he was really getting excited for it and was really getting into it, and I know we'd have so much more to talk about for sure. So, if you're from the Rules Lawyer space overall, welcome. We love seeing new people here, and hopefully we'll get a little bit more of Ronald coming in to check it out. But
Oh yeah, hopefully. Also, I just looked at a few of these spells that are being tossed in. Organ Sight is a real goofy one. I'm playing a Magus, but I'm switching off of them, so I sadly won't get to use that. Goddamn, Boiling Blood's really cool.
Boiling Blood's really
Oh my
good.
God. Jesus, I can't use like level 8 spells yet, but oh boy. And then Blistering Invective, I also looked that up real quick. Just insult somebody so bad they burst into
flames. It's
That's
so
sick.
good.
Oh my God.
Welcome, and hey, Flame Loud. Welcome. I haven't seen you in a while. And welcome, Alaikai, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. You can always correct me. And Archaeosaur Dad, and Swing Ripper, and I believe I may have seen someone else. I had to reset my thing though. But yeah, I mean, and that's the thing that is really cool about the Pathfinder space, especially when you're kind of like a new and up and comer. People can find your content, and like these kind of events where we get this intermixing is always really, really good. I do recommend highly the Rules Lawyers content for any of our viewers for sure. Ali Kai, is that correct? No worry, Flame Loud.
What the fuck is Schadenfreude?
Schadenfreude, it's so good. Blood Vendetta is also really good.
Well, oh my God. I also just looked at Blood Feast. Goddamn, that's so cool. Man, Pathfinder spells are so dope. Like, there's already a few spells that I was like shouting out earlier. Like, one that I'm really excited about. Real quick, I think it's Grizzly Growths is what it's called.
Yeah, that's also another really fun one.
Yeah, make sure I get the name right. Yeah, Grizzly Growths. The just cause someone to grow excess limbs and stuff.
Yeah,
That's properly messed up. I love that. I like me a spell that's kind of just horrible to use against another person.
there's God, and you know what the best part? The thing I think you're really gonna like, Alex, something you didn't really get when you were playing your sorcerer at the time, because early level divine spells are honestly kind of not that great. I really
Late level divine spells are so cool was the problem.
Well, once you get third level spellcasting, divine gets just really tasty.
Significantly better, but you have to get to that point. That was my problem with playing Morgan. Was like I kept using cantrips because it was like my first, second level spells aren't very good, or I just don't really care about them that much.
But like the great thing about the spells a lot here, like in Pathfinder 2E, is just the enemy can succeed the check and still have some really bad effects despite that.
Yeah, that's
like,
the thing I like about Pathfinder casting. Even if you fail or like they succeed in their save, you still get something. You didn't waste a spell slot.
Yeah, exactly. And like Fidget using the blood spray curse, where an enemy just like once they take more than 10 damage of slashing or piercing, they just take extra damage every time. And it lasts for a minute, and that was on a success for that spell. Like they succeeded the check and they still had that effect for a minute.
Yeah. Yeah, I primarily used Produce Flame Swing Ripper. I was still playing DPS caster because I refuse to play support caster. I'm playing a blaster caster at this next character, which hopefully will be introduced next week. Maybe.
Should be, hopefully.
Yeah, honestly, that's also true. Like, divine cantrips aren't that great. I'm getting a significantly better experience with the arcane spell list. It's so much more interesting, and going into all of the really cool like stuff I can do as a wizard has been interesting. I think the biggest hurdle is going to be learning how Curse Maelstrom fully works. That's going to be the hardest part, because I already know how prepared casters work. I'm playing one right now, so it's just getting that archetype down and painting a really cool aesthetic with it.
That does sound pretty fun there, Swing Ripper.
That does.
Yeah, it's I don't know. There's so many really, really good spells. Even if you want to go blaster, like, not necessarily that, but there are definitely some more blastery kind of roles for sure.
I'm just going evocation with metamagical experimentation. My build, I'll say, when I'm building a character, I'm not a I don't build something to be fully, I guess, amazing or meta.
Super optimal.
Like, optimal builds are not fully my thing, because I always make sure that my character fully fits the options I give them, and I build my character around the personality of them. So this character's entire thing is having a lot of access to spells through multiple like methods, and has a lot of control over them, as that fits their backstory and the research that they're currently undergoing in game. Occult spell list is another interesting one. I certainly like. I think it's more cool than Primal or Divine, though I know there's talk of getting the the Primal spell list a little better, or Divine in like a next few book or two.
I don't know about. I know Primal's going to be getting more with Rage of Elements, but Primal's already really, really good, honestly. Yeah. Divine should have gotten more with Dark Archive. I'm so sad Divine didn't get at least a good cantrip added to the mix to just do some more easy damage. But, I think all the spell lists are really good, and Divine does have some really killer spells.
Oh yeah, the later spells. I do think then Divine has some of the best 9th level spells. Those spells are metal as fuck. I love them. And yeah, I have currently with this character I have a lot of meta magics, Reach, Widen, and Subtle being the 3 main ones I got. because I have the meta magic experimentation. Though I'm also just messing around with changing it, and I have until like next Tuesday to finalize everything. So I was gonna really figure out exactly what I wanted to do with them. I will have to look into the what was that? The slot blending. That was another one I had my eyes on.
I didn't have the time earlier, but thank you to Swing Ripper and Alikalai for the subs earlier. We didn't have the time. Like we had to fit everything into an hour, so I did see those, but I was not able to call those out. So thank you both for the subs, and you know, and so much for Ronald for even coming on, even just for an hour. But yeah, there's a lot of really good spells, and I think your exploration into the caster side of Pathfinder 2e is going to be very rewarding. I think
I'm excited to play a smart person for the first time ever on tabletop.
Yeah, I'm actually interested in this character study for you.
I'll
be here to give you some advice.
Yeah, I really have a lockdown of who this character is and how they're gonna act. I'm excited. I think he's gonna be. It's kind of like Morgan if he was a little darker, of like Morgan. You know, that's my first Pathfinder character. I played a con man devil sorcerer, and now I'm playing a evocation wizard with the Hellspawn tiefling, which Hellspawn tiefling gives you a lot of cool stuff. I have a lot of fun spells that I get access to because of Devilish Wiles and all that. Like I get charm and invisibility for one.
That's great to hear. Aliyah Kai. There you go. I said it wrong earlier, even though I got it right before. Aliyah Kai. There you go. Yeah, no, I mean, like, Pathfinder 2e, I've never been more excited to make builds than in Pathfinder 2e. I've played games where you could make literally any character you could possibly think of, and that has never sparked my interest as much as just how fun it is to tool around with builds in Pathfinder 2e. And even with Alex here, like, has also gotten a bit into it as well, because there's just, your choices have so much weight in Pathfinder 2e, and not only that, but they're interesting weighty choices. And there's so many good feats and abilities, and you can start mixing in things that you never could, like the dandy or the celebrity archetype dedications. Like, I completely blew past them, and then what do you know? But when you actually look into them and like actually figure them out, it's like, oh, dandy is great for like a fighter, because you just instantly inject a perfectly good face character into even the most hardcore of combat characters.
Totally. And holy shit, history YouTuber. Yeah, I might have to sub to you. That's my shit on YouTube. That's like all I watch. I watch video essay stuff. I'm gonna have to take a peek at that. Also, I just realized, Cam, with all the people we have here, and you also kind of hinted at it, we can finally properly shout out the Anima Beyond Fantasy, the best tabletop system ever that has ever graced human eyes.
I can't complain. My promo video is Anima on the channel still.
All of you out here, I strongly believe you should take a look at Anima Beyond Fantasy, the best tabletop system ever made, with zero flaws. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. As you can make literally any character very easily. You want to play Goku legitimately? You can do that very easily. It's not even a stretch of aesthetics. Play it whatever you want. Just ignore the rules that are referenced that don't actually exist, tables that are referenced that make no sense. Don't try to do any sort of grappling or poison rules or trap rules. They are nothing. But take a peek at it. There's gonna be a new edition eventually. And
eventually,
yeah. And I hope the creator doubles down on his design decisions.
Man, Alex, I'm glad you're here. I'm very glad you're here. No one can see how right I am unless you're in the room.
I'm right? What are you talking about?
Yeah, sure.
I am so correct.
Yeah, I mean, like, there's all kinds of players, and you know, players who push a game are important too. Honestly, if you have a player who's really pushing the boundaries of what's acceptable in a game, you can see the limitations of the game system. Hopefully, for further iteration down the line. I do gotta say, Pathfinder 2E is one of the best systems as far as overall balance is concerned.
I do agree with that.
5th edition is a utter train wreck when it comes to that. And Ronald said several times during his time here, balance is a big issue. And in the video that I was just watching about his 1D&D one, like 1D&D does not seem to be addressing any of the new balance issues that are already inherent in D&D 5th edition anyway. So, you know, it's but I do really like his point, which was balance is super important because it validates more styles of play. You're no longer limited to, well, if I don't do this thing, I'm playing super unoptimally. You can play a little unoptimally and have it really not affect the overall gameplay in Pathfinder 2e. Like, as long as you're actually making an attack action every round, you're pretty set. Yeah, you can make a very bad character. It's easy to make a dumpster baby character. But, like, it's a lot harder, and the gaps between, like, a standard, like, casual player's character and a super hardcore, like, rule nerd character are really not that much.
I'm seeing some anima doubters in the chat here. Y'all just don't understand Anima Dev's genius. He's misunderstood with it. The artistic meaning behind having tables that are referenced that don't exist. Not many people would understand it.
Like I said, no one would know how right I am if you were never here.
You need somebody to make baseless claims like Champion and Druid are the worst classes in Pathfinder. Oh, and Alchemist too. I'll throw that in there. Worst classes.
Sure. But yeah, I mean, like, I understand D20 fatigue as well, especially when a lot of games have nearly 50% success rates on majority skill checks. 5th edition is so guilty of this, unless you have characters who have expertise.
That's my least favorite part about 5e. Is like, so many times a check is like, oh, so I have 50-50 chance. And think to, like, any, like, CRPG game you've ever played in your life. Like, would you still play that game if you had, like, XCOM shooting values for, like, every single thing you did? Like, oh, yeah, it says 90%, but it's really more of, like, a 50% or 40% chance of succeeding for literally every action. That gets tiring.
And right you are, Rylan. It's easy to make an intentionally bad character, but it's hard to make an unintentionally bad character. That's a good way of putting it. But yeah, it sucks. And you know what? A 50-50 chance should be a very difficult check. It should be a check that even a character who is prepared is not likely to succeed, or is not more likely to succeed, because, I mean, that's just how it, like, a 50-50 check, anything that's 50-50, if I gave you a button that said 50-50, you get $1 million or you explode, would you press it? Most people wouldn't put their chances on that. And so making a game that just feels like it's all 50-50, because Pathfinder 2e, if you're using the level proficiency, which I know some people don't like level proficiency, I do personally, there are some checks that you eventually just always succeed unless you crit fail the check, because your bonus is just so high. And that's good. Players who invest in skills should be so good at them they rarely fail. That's how actual expertise and effort and professionals work in a game.
Yeah, that's something I do like about Pathfinder as well. Like, the top level characters truly do feel like top level shit. It's a sense of scaling that I think is a lot better than other, like, I'd say 5e level 20 character. I feel like the vibes are a lot different.
Yeah, I'm also a big fan of high fantasy and, like, characters who are like gods amongst men. I don't like starting off that way, but I do love the idea of working a character up till that point. I think it's very fun, and the game system really makes you feel better. And, you know, I don't think a level 1 barbarian should ever roll higher than a level 20 wizard in an arcane check, like, by any stretch of the imagination. But that is 100% possible in D&D. It's ridiculous how possible it is, actually.
Oh yeah, it's wild. Also, I will be right back.
Okay. Yeah, and you know, Aliakai is right. Like, there's also the thing of, if you want success, working together feels legitimately really good in Pathfinder, because there are so many ways you can combo actions together to make it where you're even more likely to succeed, and not in just your standard ways. There's ways to give bonuses, there's ways to give penalties. You can swing the percentages kind of wide, and it's really cool. And Archosaurus Dad said, have you considered making the same character in both systems and doing a face-off? That would be interesting. You would have to use the don't use proficiency by level for Pathfinder 2e, because the numbers just don't work. But there's similar problems. If you the best way to actually have like a proper face-off is to put the characters in similar situations. Like, for instance, this character at this level versus this many goblins versus this character at the same level versus a similar number of goblins, and see how it goes, because action economy keeps more or less the numbers game the same. But I do think that's a very interesting conversation. I do think that's a very interesting approach. As GM, though, I feel like there's so much more you can do in combat, like movement changes the game completely. Grappling makes a difference. Yes. In fact, I actually changed some of the home rules that I do in my game, further optimize the game. For instance, if players are using any kind of move action, they can draw something from a pouch or draw a weapon at the same action. I also don't penalize players who go unconscious or who fall asleep or whatever by forcing them to drop their weapons. If you're knocked unconscious, you wake up, you just stand up and pick up your weapons. There's so many good ways you can tweak the system a little bit to make it less granular and have a lot of good flow to the actions that don't affect the overall narrative. Those choices that I just mentioned have not affected the overall gameplay whatsoever. And even if they did, I just have to throw in a couple more monsters and the problem automatically fixes itself. The math does not support the 5e fiction. You are 100% correct, Swing Ripper. It is astonishingly terrible how similar the end numbers between a level 1 and 20 character are. It's unheard of. Frighten makes a big difference. Yeah, also not nearly enough attention is paid to the difference in how crits work in Pathfinder 2e and how huge that is. Plus 10, minus 10, and makes every buff and debuff so much bigger. 100% yes. There's so many good ways that, again, the way you approach the strategy you get makes the difference. Indeed, in 5th edition, a nat 20 is all you got for criticals. In Pathfinder, some finagling teamwork can get you criticals without that 5% chance, increasing the chance of you getting criticals and feeling nice. And they can also be applied against you, making the game, balanced, and the characters have overall more health, so there's not that fear of innate one-shotting that exists in 5th edition. I mean, it's just like, you can have that flexibility because Pathfinder gives you the wiggle room to do it without actually affecting game balance. Pathfinder 2e's underlying math was designed with some really interesting stats behind it. Yes. You ever talk to Mark Seifter about his algorithms for how to balance characters? It's really, really interesting. The best way to face off IMO is to pit the party's face against the enemy's face. Yeah. To quote one of my players, grappling is the best debuff spell of the game. Fair. Swinger, but I found most people are terrified when I pull out the spreadsheet when talking about Pathfinder law. Yeah, well, I mean, it's like, it's not that bad, honestly. The way you can shift numbers, you don't even really have to look at it that much of a deal, because in the end, the number is only at max swing, maybe like from actions taken in total, like 4 or 5 points in most situations. Okay, so I want to talk about something, some theory crafting BS from... Okay, so I want to talk about some theory crafting BS from Getting Granular. I ran a Halloween one-shot in a mansion when my group discovered the rules of doors. His reaction was priceless. Even if I decided to overload my players with a crap ton of extra abilities, I can always balance against that due to the exponential scaling. Yes, exactly. My players got into it with me about magic weapon, but because it's transmutation, I argue it changes a weapon, it doesn't stack. But that also means that you can get a boss to drop a good weapon. Then you could magic weapon an OP weapon from said boss and change it into a +1 striking weapon as a troll move. Interesting. Interesting. Definitely a rule debate, I think, is table to table. Technically, I believe there is a rule in Pathfinder stating that whenever any object gets multiple bonuses, the highest bonus always applies. It gets a little vague when it's not necessarily another striking weapon, though, in that situation. So I guess GM's prerogative. But I do also believe... no, actually, magic weapon has a criteria that it cannot be used on a magic weapon. It has to be on a non-magic weapon.
I actually didn't know that.
Level 1 Poppet Witch PC got crit in their first battle and survived, if barely. Yeah, wizards don't have to... I mean, like, they could actually live in a combat because they get more than 10 HP starting out. It's great. I absolutely love it.
It's funny to say, because do you know how much health my my wizard starting out at 9th level is going to have? 64.
They removed that restriction in an errata. Oh. I'll have to look into it. Regardless, GM's prerogative. You know, cheesing is fun, but it needs to be held in a level of respect to the encounter that the GM has created. So, remember, it's a group experience, including the GM at the table. So, if you're trying to make an enemy they've been hyping up for a while, not an actual interesting encounter, you're doing them a greater disservice than you know. Oh, they did remove that. Interesting. Oh, I learned something. I learn something new all the time. Every time I make a video, I always learn something new because I always get something wrong. But it just makes me better. I become a better DM because now I just know rules that, you know, people don't think about. And I have the whole idea of the internet just behind me.
It is quite fun. I always pop into your comment section, see what's going on, seeing like the actually good actuallys. Like, this is how a rule works, and it's like, oh, cool. I learned more things that we'll have to deal with on the Tuesday game. Also, completely true, Hector. Like, that's one of my favorite parts. I really like that half elves and just half doors and all that. Like, they can be like any race. It doesn't have to be very human centric. Like, there's so much like good stuff with heritage and ancestries. Like, it feels so much more impactful picking like your ancestry and heritage. It's so cool. And I really like Pathfinder tieflings because I like tieflings a lot. I like them in 5e and I like them more in Pathfinder. Also, Pathfinder dwarves are dope, and I can't wait for that new book that's gonna drop a bunch of new stuff like lore for them.
Oh yes, they're coming out in November. The Impossible Lands. It's gonna have a lot of really fun stuff.
The New York for dwarves. That's what I kept seeing on Twitter.
Stitch Flesh does not let you battle medicine. Well, you know, we're not gonna dive too deep into the rules here. I mean, like, don't get me wrong, I really do enjoy it. But there, like, jankiness aside, Pathfinder just offers a lot. And what a lot of people really do enjoy is versatile heritages. It can make for some really interesting combinations. The build I talked about, for instance, the Spirit of Halloween style character is an Ifrit Leshy, because I wanted to make a jack-o'-lantern. So there you go. You got a Leshy that is both plant and fire. It's great. That's an interesting headcanon. Yeah, there's so much.
That is true. There's gonna be rules lawyers here. We literally
You're
had
the rule
the
lawyer
rules
in your
lawyer.
chat. You know what? That is 100% fair. But I always uphold the rule that GM has final say, and the game is meant to be fun for everyone. So however that works at your table is completely fine. Warring with you. What about Elixir of Life? I'm now actually really curious.
I mean, I vaguely remember what that does.
I mean, it's a slightly worse healing potion that gives you bonuses against diseases and poisons, I think. I am curious about what the discussion was about. But yeah, I mean, like, rule discussions are always great, but I feel like people don't approach them from objective standpoints. A lot of people are pushing for the rules, rather than actually, like, approaching it from what would be, like, a neutral standpoint. Bunch of GMs worrying over which book won precedence regarding Soothe and whether Elixir of Life could be used on undead. It can't twice.
It's an alchemical item, not a magical one, so there are commonly arguments on it if it can heal undead. That's interesting. I think just because we haven't had, at least in my knowledge, I don't know if you've had, this is the games I've been in, we haven't really had a necromancer pop up yet.
Or any, like, dam fires, because they also have...
Oh, yeah, that's true.
That it doesn't come up that often.
I will say I have been like peeking at necromancy, like that seems really cool. There's some really cool necromancy spells. Like I could see myself playing at some point if I fall down the wizard like rabbit hole fully. Become a wizard man in Pathfinder.
I don't see that coming, but I'm excited that you're excited. Here we go. Let's see. Let me close up some of these tabs here. Healing. Yeah, I mean, technically, so Elixir of Life states in the script that it is for living creatures, and Book of the Dead in a sidebar says it can't be used, but people say that because it isn't positive, it should be. Ah, I see. About 1/3 of our population is undead, I would say. Interesting. But name like Elixir of Life, it sounds like it shouldn't work on undead. Well, it does state in 2 places, especially in the undead book, that it can't. So, I mean, that seems like... It seems like a kind of said and done thing there. Like, specific over non-specific. If it literally refers to it and says it can't, then it can't. Then just all you have to do is like the easy alternative is just get was it like Oil of Unlife or whatever.
Just literally gonna joke, just homebrew in the Elixir of Unlife.
I mean, they used to have harm potions in first edition. I think it's Oil of Unlife. By traits, it should work. Yeah, but that doesn't mean anything. Traits don't mean anything because if there's specific ruling, it supersedes all other ruling. It's literally a rule in the book. Oil of Undeath, yeah, or Oil of Unlife.
Yeah, I imagine it's a lot of arguments of here's what this says, but this thing, it's like, yeah, but this thing, yeah, but this thing. And it's just a giant circle, like a giant circular argument pointing at the same thing over and over again.
And Ryland saying like if it's if you aren't playing with a specific book, all rules are currently available online for free with Archive and Ethos. So unless your table is intentionally banning the book, it can't be assumed that you're not utilizing rulings from all books that are available. If you are banning specific books, then that's a different question. But then the argument isn't coming from a point of like, the argument is I'm right because the stipulation, not what is actually reasonable. Because in Sierra it says one living creature, but Book of the Dead says undead PCs. Wait, so the Book of the Dead says they can be healed by it? I thought you said earlier they can't.
Starting, oh boy, this does sound like a thing that caused a lot of debate.
I mean, it doesn't. Or I mean, like, this one shouldn't. Because, like, Soothe is slated for errata to be one willing creature. But if it's not actually out yet, then, you know, I guess it doesn't really matter. Oh, you're saying, Book of the Dead says Soothe can be used on undead creatures.
Oh, okay.
I see. Yeah, I mean, okay. Interesting argument. I feel like there's a lot of bad faith perceptions of it, though. So are you saying one says because Soothe works and another says that Elixir of Life doesn't? That's where the conflict is?
Elixir of Life. 2 books say no. Soothe. 2 books disagree.
Yeah, Elixir of Life does not work by raw due to sidebars, correct. But is the argument that Soothe works, so why doesn't Elixir of Life?
Sounds like what it would be.
I mean, again, it's like, I understand when it comes to the theory of, but this all, like, the reason why I don't get into these arguments is because it all really boils down to what works for your table and your group and your people. Not to hand wave people who are arguing about it, but there's a point where it's just arguing semantics, and a lot of it is done in kind of like bad faith, when in reality it's all about like what is applicable technically, right? So like the whole undead versus living, or undead versus living characters, as far as healing is overall concerned, the limiting factors are only just like what's available and situations like that. If the argument is, well, we would like Elixir of Life to work on undead because it's inconvenient to have a bunch of different kinds of potions around. It's like, this doesn't have to be. You just have to make potions of unlife just more available.
Yeah, I mean, if I had that in my game, which also granted, if the issue at the end of the day is it's a society play thing where you actually have to really focus on rules as written, like fair, It's one of those like concerns of if I was DMing a table and that was brought up, you're like, oh, you know what? Here's even if it's not in the book, here's a potion of unlife. Whoa, here you go. It's for healing undead, but it's the exact same mechanically. But that's
Yeah,
just,
I
at the end of the day, too,
understand
that's
that.
difference of DM style.
I understand that, Swing Ripper. But even then, if you're running essentially a event, right, or you're running with multiple GMs, you just have to state what they should be doing.
Good old home games. I love that. Yeah, that's actually something I genuinely do like whenever I hop in someone else's game, is seeing how they home rule stuff, what rules they think are interesting and not. Every table's fun and different. For me, whenever I'm running something, I kill all realism rules, because realism in tabletop is the bane of my existence. It's actually something kind of interesting I wanted to point out to you at some point, Cam. In your latest discussion video, I thought it was really fun that you mentioned a thing that drew you into Pathfinder is the bag mechanic, like how bags work and like taking stuff out. Because that is legitimately my least favorite rule in Pathfinder, and I actively despise it. And I think it is annoying. I hate bag rules. Like, oh, you gotta have these special types of bags. Ew. If you're talking, I cannot hear you on my end.
Oh no! I've been muted.
Oh, fuck.
How long was I muted for?
I don't know. People were responding, so...
It must have just been a thing. Anyway, I was saying you're garbage.
What?
That argument has never come up ever. I've literally run all your games before.
I know, and I hated it from day one. What are you talking about?
What are you talking about? It's never come up for you.
Yeah, that's the bag rule of like how pouches and stuff, taking stuff out of your bags works, like the actions for
When have you ever tried to take anything out of your backpack before?
The first time we played, and I was playing as Morgan. The one it really came up in is I was going up there's one moment we were doing it in that giant wheat field. We were playing Rune Lords. And then the other one was when we were going up that collapsing tower. I remember being like, this is agonizing and I hate it.
Who cast silence? I don't know. Whatever you were trying to pull out of your backpack could have been in a pocket though, so.
Yeah, but I hate the distinction. I hate that there has to be a distinction.
I disagree 100%.
I don't see the purpose is what it breaks down to. Because I mean I always
because like, it brings value to having things in a pocket versus a bag of holding.
I'm saying that the value is unnecessary because I always function
like
off
literally
of
the sleeves of storage become completely useless without it.
Yeah.
So you know,
not my problem.
Yeah, yeah, garbage. Anyway,
I still hate it. I still hate the rule. I hate carry weight. I hate.
I think you're just full of bad takes.
Realism in tabletop is dumb. I will stand by that. And if I ever run Pathfinder, you're not getting pocket rules. I hate that. Granted, I'll never run Pathfinder because I'll never DM again, but you know.
You're... Okay. My book table ruling on Sooth counts as a variant rule that only applies when you have an undead PC. That's how it's framed in that chapter. I mean... Yeah, sure. The whole point is just to make another more available healing spell rather than harm, because there's really not many good spells for actually healing undead characters, so they probably needed a little wiggle room to make it a little easier, and that's the whole point of the intent versus like design. And also Rylan said, I think it's someone said at some point, what if you throw a vial or oil of unlife at a ghost, does it heal the ghost? Is like, no, because actually throwing vials of oil at any character doesn't actually apply it. It has to be applied as an action.
It's not the exploding potions in Minecraft.
No, they're not bombs.
Also, yeah, at the end of the day, it is a different table, different experiences, different values people add to things. It's the idea of like immersion through realism rules is something I've never personally attached to, because it's just me in general. I always attach a realism in anything, be it tabletop or video games or even like movies and stuff, as tedium, where it is to make it like real life, we have to keep the real life boring things in, like, to account for that. And at the I also like I personally hate it, but if your table wants to do like full realism stuff, feel free. That's just something I'd home rule out.
I'm not for granular realism that slows down a game. But the thing is, the pocket and bag rules do not do that whatsoever.
It feels like it to me, so that's why I don't like it. I
Well,
can see
your feelings are
logically.
dumb.
I can see the logic in why
It's not even a
why it
logic
makes
thing.
sense.
Whatever you're trying to pull out and utilize would fit in your pocket, probably.
Maybe.
The only thing you can't like easily do is suddenly retrieve an item that's too bulk or larger.
Yeah, I guess I always operate on the I think it literally is in fiction, the bag of holding idea, where a character pulls a thing out and you're like, where the fuck they get that from? And you're like, they had it. That's how I always operate.
Mm-hmm.
That's just because it's a different viewing of something. I overlook a lot of things for immersion, as long as I think characters are acting coherently to like how they act, then it's immersion for me. I mean, to be fair, I play through like really emotionally impactful games with the dumbest character you've ever seen in a character creator. That's my Mass Effect playthrough, like, for sure. And I'm still like fully immersed in everything, even though my character looks goofy as fuck. But that's just how I operate over someone else. And all these braids are different. Yeah,
I mean,
hammer space. That's it.
I mean, in the end, yeah, it's whatever works at your table. Yeah. I know I'm 100% beyond that. But if I don't bash you for your bad ideas, then what is Battle of Gamer? Really?
That is true.
Is literally our brand. Everyone who's seen any of our prior streams know that's literally like what we do most of the time.
And I am right, and I'll take it on the chin.
And you are wrong, but you know what? I appreciate you being here. Interesting. I don't know why you would need a buff for recall knowledge.
I mean, recall knowledge ain't the greatest.
But I do, like, I do get that sense a lot that 5e house rules are nerfs more often than not, while Pathfinder are buffs. Is because Pathfinder is such a good system that removing just a small granularity that gets in your way just feels good. While in D&D 5e, it's just like things get out of hand if you're not nerfing. Is about some weird interaction between two very niche ideas. Yeah, Cheese and Rules was the name of the game in Pathfinder 1, and oh boy, I'm glad they tried to get away from that. They very much did successfully get away from it. Oh my goodness. All of the various things that could be, like, Pathfinder 1 was 50% playing the game and 50% arguing the rules.
That is something I'm very happy
situations.
about. I'm very happy about that, because I don't like games where you have to like cheat and break the system to have it be fun. I like the style of balance in 2e that feels like, you know what? Just make everything really good. Just do that way. That's my style of balance. I like that. Oh, also, good question here, Cam. What are y'all's favorite dinosaur or other prehistoric organism?
Well, to be fair, mine is the Ankylosaur.
Huh.
I've been a big Ankylosaur fan since I was a wee lad, so...
I have an answer too, with very, very good reasoning behind it.
Oh no.
My favorite dinosaur is the Carcharodontosaurus. It's a really long name, and I'm not good at long words. That is my favorite because of the game Fossil Fighters for the DS. Karchar carried me through large parts of that game, and so I like his real-world dinosaur counterpart.
This is a dream. Literally getting on stream and talking about dinosaurs.
I actually
think at one point.
I think it's really interesting because I actually wasn't that big into dinosaurs as a kid. I was always just like, neat, and then that was the extent of it. I never was like dinosaur obsessed as a kid.
I was a dinosaur kid because my parents turned me into one, and then when I grew up, I kind of just fell out of dinosaurs.
I feel like a lot of people, they like, oh, you're a child, you like dinosaurs, and I'm like, I think they're neat. And like the only thing that truly appealed to me in dinosaur media was Fossil Fighters, because that game slaps.
It's such a good game.
It's so good. It's one of the best DS games. By the way, if any of you have a 3DS lying around, you should hack it. It's incredibly easy to do. And play Fossil Fighters. It's so good. And if you also just want to treat yourself and don't want to play the game, just quickly look up the Fossil Fighters, the BB Bandit theme. It's one of the best villain things I've ever heard. But I also know nothing about dinosaur stuff because at the end of the day, that's a STEM field, and I know nothing about STEM. I am an art student. All my mind is in cameras.
That's fair.
And Warhammer. I know Warhammer biology and Warhammer history, but that's it. That's a great reason. All right, that's the second favorite dinosaur.
It's about to say you just found Alex's new favorite dinosaur.
That's hysterical.
That's childish, but I own it. That's fair. That's the hobby in general. That's role playing in general. We're literally going around going, you attack, you hit, nuh-uh. That's what we do
all of these
all the
games.
time.
The way I explain a lot of these games, like to people who have no touchstone in like these nerdy like tabletop games, is like it's like playing like Imagination as a kid, but there's a book telling you why you saying nuh-uh is right. Like that's all it is. They're like the one I talk to this about is like Warhammer. I'm an avid Warhammer 40k fan. I play it all the time. I have a YouTube channel on it, linked in this channel. All that is toy soldiers, but then when you say, no, my guy's got a force field, you're right, and yet they have to make a 4-up check because of it.
Yep. It's a wonderful field, and like to be fair, right? Don't get me wrong. I dislike the discourse when it comes to people trying to find niche ways to get around rules because I feel like the intent is always let me break the game, please. But I do feel like the discussion and the people who really are into that kind of thing do make up like a good backbone of the space, honestly. People who are really into the rules and are really into finding some really cool things. I mean, literally, if you go to any kind of society play, you're going to hear 100 stories of people who got away with something in the rules and it was their favorite thing in tabletop. So it's like it creates memories, it creates fun moments, and when the DM allows you to do so, it's great. So it's one of those things that like I definitely believe situationally, as how the rules are always prefaced, they can work. With ETT, it's mostly people arguing against their own best interest to make sure their character is 100% legal. By the way, you mentioned you might be interested in my channel. I'm a pagan who studies ancient Greek classic papers, nice, and talks about ancient Greek religion that you don't learn just by reading the myth. So if you're into that, that's what I do. What's your channel name?
It's there's a link to the channel if you click it in there in the chat. I'm already subscribed. I'll tell you that much. I saw the topics and I was like, this is just what I watch normally, so I'm immediately on board.
I mean, I'm also all for GMs and people who love certain kinds of content who want to do other stuff. I mean, one of the big things like we are doing here on this channel specifically is I think tabletop RPGs are really fun. I think a lot of people really enjoy the idea of having their own personal adventure, their own unique storyline. You're on your account. Okay, cool. And this is the only type of game that you can have your own personal, unique story, character, whatever, to do things that you imagine or would like to do, or to have even literal, like, life-changing moments. Like, tabletop can be so influential and so impactful depending on just variables of what kind of group you have, what kind of people you get to play with, all the other kind of stuff. That, like, I think it's an experience anyone literally can enjoy. I think even people who don't like the idea of tabletop can get behind the idea of narrative gaming and making their own characters and doing their own stuff, exploring different ideas, even exploring different, like, characteristics of themselves, personality, all that other kind of stuff.
It's pretty fun. I like this whole tabletop biz. Tell some cool stories.
Yeah, we've told some really crazy stories. We've literally had game sessions where we came back afterwards and we're like, okay, we need to take like a month break. Emotionally, I'm a little fragile at the moment.
That did happen. There was a month of November that was probably one of the worst emotionally in my life. All because of fucking tabletop, so.
So, well, it's not always that bad.
I'm just saying, that's the most it ever hit. Where it was 2 games where I had major shit happening to 2 characters at the same time, like a day or 2 apart from each other, and it was probably the most like emotionally devastated I've been. I was in a rough state for a while.
But it's so good.
It was
because
awesome.
You just
I
can't
love
get
it.
these anywhere else. It's so good. And I believe there needs to be a lot more of a casual, fun space for it. We do enjoy the rules. Whenever I make my builds, my intent is to optimize character utility and narrative purposes. Like, I'm all about looking into the nitty-gritty to make sure that I can create fun, enjoyable experiences for my players and for the people who like to look at my builds. But I think this space also needs more people who can just kind of come in and just be like, oh, that's cool, and move on with their day. We need more Alexes in the space, honestly.
Yeah, be like me.
Don't be like Alex.
Be exactly like me.
Be a kind of person who just wants to have fun in the space and doesn't care too much about getting into the nitty-gritty of it.
That do be me.
Yeah, that is.
Yeah.
Don't have as many bad takes as Alex.
My takes are great. What are you talking
Your
about?
takes are terrible.
By the way, I mean my takes are phenomenal. Like the one I keep referencing, my Pathfinder 2e class tier list. That's completely right. And if you wish to see and be shown how correct I am, go to our Discord. It's in our tabletop discussions bit if you scroll up.
To go back to Happy Place, that they still wanted more sessions. I was trying like a good portion of the rules in my home games. I just keep ETT as a close. What's ETT? Before we leave, because we actually are out of time. What is ETT?
I assume it's a server. It's some server.
Something tabletop.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, that's the thing, right? I don't even play Pathfinder 2e raw. I've adjusted a lot of the rules to improve flow over the granularity of the game. Is the Ronald West Marches Endless Tale Tavern. Oh, I've seen that. Okay. I've seen that. All right. I get you.
The rules guide for the rules lawyer.
So I'm the rules guy for it, so I have to know my stuff. You know what? I mean, that's fair. And like I said,
fair.
All kinds make the tabletop community. So don't get any of my my stance against being super granular with the rules as an indication of my respect for people in that space. I think it takes all kinds.
It is an important thing.
It's really important. And like, I do think it's interesting. And like I said, a lot of the best moments are created by players finding some workaround. Whenever you like play a game and you find something that kind of breaks the game, it's kind of fun. Always. It's just my problem is always I don't trust people. My problem is I don't trust people. So it's just like, I always look at that kind of thing as the idea that people are doing it to get the most out of it. Not that there's not situations where the opposite is true, and that's fair. This is fun. If you ever live again when I'm working on a script or something, all probs popping in again. Thank you. I appreciate it. We are always here for those who are new. We are always here, and we always run a table talk every week, or most weeks anyway, Thursdays at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So if any of you are available at that time, you can come on by. Also, if you're interested in just the discussions, you can watch these videos because they are all recorded onto the YouTube itself, and you can watch all of our live streams that we've had there as well. Also, we do a lot of other kinds of content. We also look into other tabletop games. We recently did Blades in the Dark. We've done all kinds of really fun games, and starting next month, so here soon, we are going to be running another poll for what game we check out next. And I know Alex is going to have a whole big thing about people who are offering in their tabletop like ideas or games into like the list. So
yeah, I'm going to get an automated or like Google form thing to have people go through and tell us about systems they enjoy, want to see us play, and with enough information that it can be vetted out, so it's not everyone spamming the same thing or one person spamming their thing repeatedly.
So check out the Discord for that. And also we're Washingtonians as well, so
Washington.
Unfortunately you can't stop by, but just how schedules work. We try our best, especially with Critical Role and all that.
I've heard a lot of good talks about Battletech.
I want you to suffer from my own curiosity. Battletech is interesting.
I remember there was a time where at the game shop I would go to, they had full stuff up for Battletech, and I kept wanting to try it. It seems cool.
Well, good ideas. Check out the Discord because we're gonna be getting that all organized, and then we're gonna be running polls. And not only that, but all you need to do is be subscribed to the YouTube channel, because we always have polls for what games we're trying out in a month come up on the YouTube as well. So you can always check it out there to put your vote in for what you would like to see. And then we always run a session 0 to see how it's set up, a one-shot to see how it's played, and at the end of the one-shots we always do a interview with the players on their opinions, and then I always trim that up and then add my own takes, and we release a video into final thoughts for each game system. So if you're interested in interviews and you want something a little bit more short form, check out the Final Thought series. If you want to see how it's actually played, check out the live streams where we do it. We probably are, honestly. I mean, we're pretty, not like completely centralized, but for most places it wouldn't take too long to drive. I'll say that. And also Alex and I just don't live in the same place, so
nope.
For now, we'll see.
For now.
But yeah, unfortunately, I would love to keep talking. I really, really would. But gotta get going. So thank you all so much for watching. I hope you all really enjoyed. I can't wait to see some of you again, or if you're just here for this one, thank you so much for stopping by. We'll probably have Ronald on again at some point in the near future. I would absolutely love to.
Yeah, I really hope so.
Fingers crossed that next time we can get a little bit more of his time, because he looked like he was starting to enjoy himself, and it was very unfortunate to see him go. But work is work, so gotta do what you gotta do. But yeah, Alex, anything you wanna leave off with?
I make Warhammer videos. They're linked in Cam's channel. Tomorrow morning I'm gonna drop a video on the most popular character in Warhammer 40k. And my absolute favorite. So if you care about Warhammer and Warhammer lore stuff, take a peek. They're pretty cool.
All right. See y'all later. Bye.